Hey everybody, welcome back. Time to read the Sealed Nectar. Sealed Nectar, Sealed Nectar, Sealed Nectar, Sealed Nectar. Okay, guess what? Guess it. Guess it! We are in the section titled The Battle of Uhud. Getting in. Alright, and that's page 439. The defeat at Badr was a humiliation which the Qurayshite pride could not leave unavenged. Revenge was, therefore, the catchword all over Mecca. The Meccans even forbade lamenting over the murdered people. Forbidding people to lament over the people who were killed. Not allowing the mourning, like public mourning. That's a strange political tactic. Or ransoming their people who were captives at Battle of Badr, lest the Muslims should realize the grave degree of sadness and feeling of tragedy they were experiencing. In the wake of Badr, the Quraysh was in common consent and started fresh preparations to launch an overall war against the Muslims, in order to restore their wounded prestige and pride. The most enthusiastic polytheists desiring to go into a new battle were Ikrimah bin Abi Jahl, Safwan bin Umayyah, Abu Sufyan bin Harb, and Abdullah bin Abi Rabi'ah. They were determined to crush the Commonwealth of Islam, Once and for all, messengers were sent to all the tribes to make common causes against the rising faith. As a consequence of this, they managed to enlist the support of any who wanted to fight against the Muslims among the tribe of Kinana. The people of Tiamah, and the people living in the suburbs. It was also decided that the profits of the escaped caravan headed by Abu Sufyan, which amounted to 1,000 camels, that's a lot of camels, and 50,000 dinars, should be devoted for providing equipment to the army. Yes, you gotta get some armor, some swords. It was about this that Allah revealed, "Verily, those who disbelieve spend their wealth to hinder men from the path of Allah, and so they continue to spend it. But in the end, it will become an anguish for them. Then they will be overcome." 836. They also devised other ways of recruitment, including hiring poets to persuade the tribes into fighting the Muslims. That is unique. A poet to persuade you. A persuasive poet. That is something I've never heard of before. Like, I've heard of orators, but a poet doing it. That is an interesting... Like a bard does... I've heard of bards who do it afterwards. They describe a battle. But to help people enlist? Safwan bin Umayyah allured Abu Azza, the poet, to... Oh, he's a poet. Allured him, the poet, to work in this context in return for riches after war, or supporting his daughters if killed. Incidentally, this poet was a prisoner of war in the context of Badr events in the hands of the Muslims, and the Prophet, peace be with him, was gracious enough to release him unransomed, provided he would not engage in fight against him. Dude got lucky. Abu Sufyan nursed the most enmity against Muslims because of his losses in As-Sawiq invasion, and of the Quraysh's losses by the platoon of Zayd bin Haritha. Now the next one is titled "The Army of Quraysh Prepares." In the light of these successive failures, the Quraysh increased and accelerated their preparations for a decisive battle with the Muslims. At the turn of the year, everything was all ready for the move. The Meccans also decided to take their women along with them, for they might be aroused to fight manfully. Thus a group of 3,000 pitched warriors, of whom 700 were soldiers with coats of mail, and 200 well-mounted cavalry with 3,000 camels, and 15 women marched towards Medina. The general leader was Abu Sufyan bin Harb. The cavalry was under the leadership of Khalid bin al-Walid, assisted by Ikramah bin Abu Jahl, and Bani Abdud Dar, were entrusted with the flag. Oh, so they have a flag bearer, and then some 15 women. Not that many, but they must have been brave. The mobilization of the Meccan army. After the preparations were complete, the Meccan army began its way toward Medina. Old deep-seated hatred enveloped the whole process, forewarning of bitter and bloody fighting. Bitter, like, just like, Argh! And then bloody is just like slice and dice. The Prophet's survey discovers the moments of the enemy. Meanwhile, Al-Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib was closely watching the military movements and preparations for war, and these were all included in an urgent message sent by him to the Prophet, peace be upon him, who received it while he was in Quba Masjid. Ubay bin Ka'ab read the letter to the Prophet, peace be with him, who asked him to be secretive about its serious contents. He hurried back to Medina, convened a meeting with the helpers and emigrants, and consulted them over the measures that should be taken. Helpers and emigrants. It's such an interesting name to call your allies, you know? The helpers, the immigrants. Muslims prepare for imminent danger. It feels like they're always in imminent danger. I mean, that's what I got from this, is that they're always someone's always just trying to handpick. The whole of Medina was put on the alert, and all men were heavily armed even during prayer in anticipation of any emergency. A group of helpers volunteered to guard the Prophet, peace be with him, and kept a watchful eye all night at his door. Among those there were Sa'id bin Mu'ad, Usaid bin Hudar, and Sa'id bin Ubadah, lest they should be taken by surprise. Armed groups of the Madanis began to police the entrance and roads leading to the city, to check the movements of the polytheists. Muslim platoons began to patrol the routes for any probable enemy raids. Setting out patrols to check for raids. The Meccan army's approach to Medina. The Meccan army, on the other hand, continued the march along the usual western road. On reaching Al-Abwa, Hind bin Utbah, Abu Sufyan's wife, suggested that they dig up the grave of the Prophet's mother. Ugh! Ew! What a creep! What? What a weirdo. But the leaders of the army refused to do so for fear of the consequent results. Yeah. Jeez. That's like dirty, man. The army then followed Wadi ul Aqiq and turned the right to encamp themselves at a place called Ainain near Uhud mountain. That was on Friday 6 Shawwal 3 AH. What would they have? They would probably parade it. Dig it up and then carry the bones around in a bag, and then like when the battle's about to start, maybe they would dump the bones like in front of the army of the Muslims and be like, look at this, like to bait them into having confusion and getting their emotions out of whack, because like when you can disrupt the mind of your opponent in such a way like that'd be extreme. Like that's probably what they were hoping for. They're planning to show it somehow, I bet. If they would have done it. That's usually what I think people would have done. Because if you had an enemy and then you chopped off your enemy's head and then it was somebody like a relative of your opponent, you would take those body parts and I would chuck it and be like, ah! I mean, that's what I would do. It's if they were my formidable enemy, right? I mean, that makes sense, because you gotta, if you're gonna dig it up, unless they could dig it up and then move it and bury it somewhere else. Be like, oh, now you can't even mourn your mom, you don't even know where she's buried. We put it somewhere else. Yeah. What a dark tactic. A consultation assembly for a defense plan. The scouting party of Medina conveyed the news of the Meccan army step by step. Then Allah's Messenger, peace be with him, held a head military consultation assembly to exchange views about the situation. He told them about a dream he had. He said, "By Allah, I have dreamt of, I pray Allah to be a dream of bounty, cows slaughtered, and there was a grove at the pointed top of my sword, and that I had inserted my hand into an immune armor." What a trippy dream. The interpretation of the cows was that some of his men were killed, and the grove at the pointed top of my sword was that a member of his house would be hurt. Whoa. As for the armor, it was Medina. Whoa, who interpreted this? That's a crazy dream. Then he offered a suggestion that his companions should not go out of Medina and that they should encamp themselves within the city. He was of the opinion that the enemy should be left in the open to exhaust themselves, and thus the Muslims would not risk a battle. But if they thought of attacking Medina, Muslim men would be ready to fight them at the mouths of lanes, whereas Muslim sets of 43 pages stuck together. Whereas Muslim women would help from over the house roofs. Why, by chucking rocks or something? Ooh, what if you stood... The Aztecs, they used to fight on top of their homes, and they used to fire arrows down. The Aztecs did that when they went to fight the Spaniards. But they could also, if you boil hot water, you just like put it on your rooftop whenever they try to seize your door. Abdullah bin Ubay ibn Salul, the head of the hypocrites, who attended the meeting as a chief of al-Khazraj, supported the Prophet's plan. As a matter of fact, his agreement was not based on the righteousness of the plan, but rather on personal benefit. He did not want to fight. On the contrary, he secretly aimed at being far away from the fight. However, it was Allah's will that he should be disclosed and disgraced in public. For the first time, it was his will that the curtain behind which the hypocrites' disbelief was concealed should be uncovered and pulled down. Oh, that's a cool way to phrase it. Yeah. Uncovered, pulled down, not just exposed. Allah's will enabled the Muslims to recognize the reality of those snakes that were creeping within their garments and inside the sleeves of their clothes. Thanks to Allah, they recognized them in one of the most critical times of their lives. Some of the best honorable companions who had missed al-Jihad in Badr battle suggested that the Prophet, peace be with him, should go out of Medina, and urged him to accept their point of view. One of them said, "O Messenger of Allah, for a long time we have been looking forward to this day, and we have prayed to Allah to make such a day draw near. Thanks to Allah, it is time to fight. So let us go out and fight our enemies, lest they should think that we have lost heart and do not care to fight them." Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, the paternal uncle of the Prophet, peace be upon him, who had already covered the ornaments of his sword with idolaters' blood in the Badr battle, was headed of those eager people who urged him to go out and meet the disbelievers. "Meet him on the pass," he said to the Prophet, peace be upon him. "By Allah, who has sent the book down unto you, I will not taste food till I fight them with my sword outside Medina." Oh. But you gotta prep though, buddy. You gotta eat. So you be strong. Yeah, you're gonna be able to chuck that sword. After weighing carefully the pros and cons of issue, it was decided that the enemy should be resisted outside the city of Uhud. That is cool.